At each school board meeting, staff members make presentations that highlight academic programs in the York County School Division. In December 2008, Dr. Bondi Shea Gibson, along with Kelly Denny and Karen Yeldell, spoke to the board about response to intervention.
Tonight we will be discussing how response to intervention is indeed making a positive difference in the lives of York County students. RTI is based in federal and state law. Working with the No Child Left Behind legislature, general education teachers and staff members monitor and measure students' academic progress in the classroom. Through this general education initiative, research-based interventions and strategies are put into place for students that are not making adequate progress. Kelly will now discuss our three-tier model.
Good evening, Dr. Williams, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board. Response to intervention actually derives its name from the very practice of implementing instructional interventions provided by the general education teachers, such as small group instruction, and then systematically evaluating those interventions based on the child's response to those interventions. The wisdom of RTI is that at the earliest signs of a child's difficulty responding to those interventions, adjustments are made in instruction to meet those child's needs. In the first tier of interventions, universal interventions are used in the general education classroom. These are basic, proactive interventions that are just basic good teaching our teachers have been doing for a long time. This is high-yield instructional strategies, differentiated education, small group instruction in reading and math, and generally 80 to 90% of our students respond to these strategies with success. However, about 5 to 10% of our students require targeted interventions in a smaller group setting with perhaps 1 to 3 students in that small group, looking more specifically at the skills that need intervention. As students progress with those interventions, we tend to look for their progress. And if they're not making progress with the interventions at Tier 2, they may even need further intensive interventions at Tier 3. This really affects only about 1 to 5% of our population. The goal of this three-tier model is really to offer resources and instructional interventions that meet the specific needs of those individual students. Karen's going to take a look now at some of the advantage of the response to intervention model.
And there are indeed advantages to the RTI model. The universal screening tools, consisting of district-wide assessments, allow for the early identification of students who are truly at risk for academic failure. Data-driven decisions are made for our RTI students through the use of a proactive team approach. Student progress is monitored over time to ensure that the interventions and strategies that aren't put in place are effective and having a positive impact on student academic performance. Parental communication is also a very integral part of this process. Please refer to this video clip of Cheryl Parr, our Tab Elementary School principal, as she gives her perspective of the RTI process.
With response to intervention, what we're doing is really taking an in-depth look at what kind of strategies we're providing for the boys and girls that need support, and then how often we're doing that, and what can we do to make sure that we're giving them the most that they need.
I'd like to provide you now with a pictorial representation of a typical elementary classroom. This represents the average academic performance level of the majority of the students in the classroom. These are those kids that are at the 80 to 90% group that are responding to those universal interventions at Tier 1. Then we have our target student, who's typically performing below grade level and needs some interventions probably at Tier 2. We're working as a group in the response to intervention team to close that gap and bring this learning curve in the rate of learning up to the academic performance level of the average student. I'd like you now to listen to Lisa Gregory, a Mount Vernon teacher, as she entails for you the experience of one of her students in the response to intervention process.
The meeting, and you come up with all these different strategies and interventions that you can use, and you go back to the classroom and you try them and hoping that one of those interventions will work. And for me, with one of my students, having him do read aloud on his test taking for comprehension worked well for him, because he was scoring in the very low 30s and 40s, and having him just simply read something aloud, because his listening comprehension is so much better, he's now scoring B's and C's.
Parents definitely make a difference in our RTI process. They play a crucial role as they sit at the table, and in tandem with the educators in our buildings, they provide additional insight about their child's overall well-being. Nicole Diwali, a parent at Tabb Elementary School, will now share her perspective of the RTI process and how it's helped her child.
Since the program, and it was early on this school year, you can see the difference in the way she carries herself. She walks a little taller, a little prouder. She isn't so embarrassed to bring home grades. She thrives on bringing home, a good report. She's proud of herself now. It's changed her attitude. A whole different person has blossomed out of this program.
And as we conclude, we'd just like to share with you that as assessment, compliance, and intervention coordinators, the role that Karen and I play in the division, along with several other colleagues, it's our new role this year. We've had the opportunity to speak with a variety of your constituents throughout the division and hear very positive responses to this program. The parents that we work with are very excited about this program, and they have given us great response to the difference that it's making for the students in the division. And we thank you for the opportunity to share what a difference it's making for the kids in our school.